Today, we are going to crack the code on the manual tester interview. And look, let's be real. Interviews can be stressful, but we're going to show you how to turn all that pressure into a moment where you can really showcase your skills. So, let's dive right in. Okay, right off the bat, I'm putting you in the hot seat. Just picture it. The big launch is hours away. Everyone's excited, and bam, you find a massive bug. A real showstopper. What do you do? The interviewer knows this is a high-pressure question. They want to see how you handle the heat. And here's the most important thing to remember. They're not looking for some perfect pre-rehearsed answer. Not at all. They want to see how your brain works. So we're not just going to give you a list of things to say. We're going to give you a framework for thinking like a top-tier QA pro, someone who's calm, logical, and totally strategic. Which leads us perfectly into our first pillar. What interviewers want to know more than almost anything is this: how do you act when the pressure is really on? Can they trust you when things inevitably go wrong? So for that showstopper bug we talked about, this is your playbook. It's not about being a hero, it's all about having a solid process. First, you log it instantly, and you include everything: steps to reproduce, screenshots, severity, no room for confusion. Then you escalate it, clearly to the right people. From there, it's a team effort. You talk with the devs about the impact. And yeah, you might have to be the one to suggest holding the release. It's a tough call, but it's the right one. And you see it through to the end by verifying the fix. This whole process shows you're mature and in control, not panicking. Okay, let's switch it up. A totally different kind of crisis. What if the bug isn't the problem, but the clock is? The deadline is set in stone, you've only got a few hours, and there's no way you can test everything. What do you do? This is where you show off your strategic brain. You use a risk-based approach. You don't just test random things, you prioritize like a pro. You focus all your energy on the most critical business essential features first. For a hotfix on a payment issue, you're going to test the payment gateway and the login modules, right? You run some quick smoke and sanity tests to make sure the build isn't completely broken. And, this is key, you communicate the risks of a tight timeline to everybody. You're not making excuses, you're managing expectations, like a true professional. So, finding bugs, that's just part one of the job. Getting them fixed? Well, that means you have to navigate team dynamics. This is our second pillar, and it's where your communication and collaboration skills are really put to the test. Ah yes, the classic. I'm sure every tester has heard this one before. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Now, this can be a moment of real tension, or it can be your moment to shine. How you handle this says pretty much everything about how you work with a team. The secret here is to swap out the drama for data. It's that simple. On one side, you've got these emotional arguments, right? This is broken or it just feels wrong. But on the other, you have data-driven communication. Instead of getting upset, you present the facts. Here are the logs that show the error. You point to the rulebook. This goes against acceptance criteria 3.1 in the user story. The goal isn't about winning an argument. It's about making the product better. And when you use objective proof, you turn a fight into a problem-solving session. Now, dealing with disagreements is one thing. But what about when the project goals themselves are constantly changing? Because in any agile team, you know that the only constant is change. You handle this by showing you've got that agile mindset. You don't complain about the changes, you adapt to them. You update your test cases every single sprint. You analyze the impact of changes so you're not wasting time retesting things that weren't even affected. You keep a super clear link between the user stories and your test cases. And you communicate proactively with the product owner. This shows you're not just some passive observer. You are an active, valuable part of the team. All right, let's get into our third and final pillar, your technical craft. This is where you get to prove that you have that deep, methodical, detail-oriented mindset of a true quality professional. So, an interviewer asks you a question that sounds super simple. How would you test a login page? Now, a junior tester might say, I'd try a correct password and an incorrect one. But you deconstruct it. You talk about functional testing, then you get into negative testing, then you cover UI testing and responsiveness, and then you hit them with crucial security testing. You show them you're thinking about everything from password recovery to SQL injection. It proves you see the entire picture, not just the obvious stuff. And then you drop a little gem like this, a specific, concrete example. When you mention a simple SQL injection attempt, you instantly level up your answer. It's a tiny detail, but honestly, it signals a massive difference in expertise. It shows you're not just thinking about what a normal user will do, but also what a malicious user might try to do. Now, every great tester has a good war story, right? That one really challenging bug you hunted down. When they ask you to share one, don't just state the problem. You gotta tell the story. So, for example, you might talk about the mystery of the random user logouts, where people kept getting kicked out and nobody knew why. And then you walk them through your investigation, step by step, like a detective. First, you just observed the pattern. Then, you started gathering evidence, recording logs, looking at network traces. You methodically isolated the cause, and bingo, you found these session token mismatches happening during parallel API calls. And finally, you presented this airtight case to the developer. This kind of story really showcases your analytical skills in a powerful way. And for the big reveal, the culprit was a race condition in the session handler. See, by telling the full story, you're not just showing that you found a bug. You're demonstrating that you have a logical, repeatable process for solving really complex problems and working with your team to get them fixed. So, we've covered crises, team dynamics, and your technical skills. But what if I told you there's a kind of secret code, a master key, that ties all of this together and helps you give a perfect, memorable answer every single time? It all comes down to the number 3. Seriously, every great scenario-based answer you give should have 3 core parts. And here it is. For any story you tell, any scenario you break down, structure it like this. First, your approach. What were the exact steps you took? Second, your communication. Who did you talk to and how did you do it? And third, the impact. What was the final result and what did everyone learn from it? Using this simple structure makes any answer you give sound strategic, professional, and just incredibly well thought out. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you walk into an interview, don't think of it as a test you have to pass. Think of it as your first day on the job. It's your very first chance to show them how you think, how you collaborate, and how you are going to help them build a better product. It's your first chance to add real value. Now go show them what you've got.